experience.
Very good. Well, thank you, Anna, for inviting us to join you and anchor sort of the eastern edge of the I&M Canal. We are doing some exciting work over there in just 2 years. President Obama was there on a very cold winter day to federally recognize Pullman National Monument and the partners in the community that have been preserving and protecting that place for decades, if not, some say, a century. The federal interest in the park, sort of what's the big point of the national story, is labor history. 2 episodes in particular of labor history, both the 1894 labor strike and also a second wave of labor history that happened in the 1920s, 1930s with the rise of the African American labor recognition, the Brotherhood of the Sleeping Car Porters. And we found that both of those stories and labor history itself wasn't really told anywhere on a national level. So that's one big reason that the park is set aside. And the second big reason is the lasting urban planning, sort of a company, residential community, a good live-work community that was set aside over 100 years ago, still has visitors coming to learn about it today, even international visitors. So the National Monument boundaries is a little over 200 acres, but the part that Kathy and I get to focus and work on is less than a quarter acre. We are going to be creating a visitor center in the clock tower. Everything that's sort of in that dotted line there, that box, will be what will be the physical National Park Service place. The rest of the area is privately owned or owned by other nonprofit groups and even some light industry in the area. We are surrounded by Pullman State Historic Site. And that's one of the major initiatives that we are working hard as we speak. I think Kathy, as we speak today, has been moving that game piece forward. But the second major project that we were tasked with when we first got going there was to get into the school systems, to work with youth, to be relevant to the community, and to be a federal asset in the Chicagoland area and also more regionally. And that's something that I've been spending a little bit of time on. And I've done a few curriculum programs as a park ranger over the decades, and we're finding that the kids are responding in a different way perhaps than when we were young folks ourselves. And so I wanted to do something different this time at Pullman. Instead of looking at the standards, looking at the site themes, coming up with a different activity or technique and delivering it, I said, what happens if we stop being in charge and put the kids in charge, sort of like Kelly was talking about at her museum, which I think is a wonderful example. And then we did another bold and cheeky thing. It's what every self-respecting park ranger would do, to say, how do I work with kids in schools? Well, let's bring in horses and theater performers. Actually, it's a little more bigger story than that. Last year, we celebrated our centennial, the 100th anniversary of the Park Service. So in 2015, there was a national call that said we want to engage new partners to be innovative and work with the youth, the next generation of park stewards. So some cheeky New York lady called Washington, D.C. and said, I have an idea, and I would like to help. And that was the lady that manages the Equus Project. That's Joanna Shaw. So she's the shorter one in the black coat leaning on the railway. So she called Washington. So Washington called 3 parks. One of the calls came to Pullman. And I almost never say no, but I was tempted because I was by myself at the time, still working on getting phones running and finding a copier, some of the basic site startup things. And she charmed me on the phone and said, yes, why don't we see if we can put a program together that will work in the schools, that will work with youth. And yes, it incorporates horses and, Pullman stories. I'm like, why would you do that? Well, I thought trains and transportation was a turning of the agrarian sort of industrial, and what was missing in the soundscape, the smellscape, the visualscape at Pullman was early transportation, the clopping of horses delivering goods along the street, and it was something that was not there. So I said, well, sure, let's bring the arts. Ms. Cavall, you were asking about bringing arts back in school. So we had a couple of group meetings. We're fortunate enough within the monument boundary that there are 2 elementary schools. And since we were working with Every Kid in a Park initiative last year to get 4th graders in the national parks, this group said, yes, we'll join you. And it's Edgar Allan Poe Classical Elementary School. They are part of the Chicago public school system, but they are an invitation only. So they don't accept all students that want to go there. In fact, there's a waiting list, and they're academically very successful. They also have a lot of parent engagement, and they focus on theater, arts, and performance. So when we took this idea, how can we work with you, work with your students, work with the park themes, work with student-based performance, they were like, of course, we do this all the time. We bring in guests, let's join hands and see what we can do. And so I have some examples, and as we look through some of the pictures with the kids, focus on the faces. You see Sarah Rose Gerber there. Joanna connected with her. Sarah lives part-time in Scotland. She's also a comedian and has worked in Chicago. Some of you may have seen her on stage before, but her passion is also doing audience-based or student-based derivative artwork. Not me telling people what to think, but where's the audience? What are they thinking? And so what we're doing is generating simply a list of where are these fourth graders? What do these students know about this site? What do they know about Pullman? It was astounding because the year before, I think the principal is a rock star, Eric Dockery. He got his whole 240 student population to walk down through the monument to visit us at the factory site, to visit us at the hotel, and to walk back. And the students themselves remembered almost word for word some of the things that the docents and the rangers had said to them. And so that was the foundation of what they knew about Pullman National Monument. So after we sort of did a brainstorming session of what are things you already know about the site, how are you an expert, we did little warm-up exercises. Just like an operatic singer sort of warms up their voice, we needed to warm up and get these bodies and minds moving in concert together. So we did a series of sort of follow the leader activities, vocal activities, imaginary engagement activities to get them ready to be able to do small vignettes. And so we facilitated some of the park themes and some of the students' feelings and asked them to create characters and put characters in motion and then put words to the characters in motion. And it was truly stunning in a 40-minute session that we were right there talking about Pullman porters both having opportunity and suppression working for the Pullman company, and that came from the students in just a short period of time. Now you're wondering, well, where did the horses and the dancers come in? Our grant proposal to the NEA, which we failed at getting, was to take these student stories, work with the students in the classrooms, have them inform the art pieces, and then actually bring in professional performers to do final performances, out in the public, out on the grounds, within the National Monument. And that's still a dream that we're having. We took the same activity to a second school within the National Monument. This is the George M. Pullman Elementary School, kind of a classic Pullman look to it in its design and build. And the Pullman School is very different. That's an open enrollment. They take all kids that apply there, and they're at a very different level. They have never had any theater arts performance folks come into the classroom, and so bless his heart, Dr. Julius Lawson, the principal there, was like, okay, Ranger Sue, if you say that this will help our students. They were very welcoming and trusting. And again, look at the faces of the young folks. We went through the same process of what do you know about Pullman, and their answers were very different from the first school. We did some physical listening, some body warm-ups, some motion, some sound, some vocal, some movement, watching each other, taking cues from each other. And then we took turns creating little vignettes out of those pieces within the very first stories that were told. And I've done in the classrooms a lot of work with youth groups, and you see some of those faces going down or kids really not paying attention. And I was just astounded at the energy. These kids came into the classroom, they came in a line, they were very polite, they took their chairs, they sat down, they folded their hands on their desk because there was an outside guest in the school. And then the first thing we did was break up the tables, have them move the tables, and the energy level and engagement of these young folks, very different than a typical program that we might have done years ago. And so I'm sold on doing student-based, sort of audience-based, generated performance. And the reason we're doing this is we're finding, after we've done some of these classroom activities, that we get a little crazy, we get a little wild, we get a little movement going, but when the kids are done and they go back to their next period, they're ready to sit down, they're ready to focus on their next task. They're working together in a different way than they maybe did before, and we don't have any proof yet, but we're always hoping that, you know, it will help young folks stay in school and also reach graduation. So sort of the lessons that we learned is say yes. Say yes to opportunities. Say yes to crazy New Yorkers who say, I'm interested in working with youth and horses in the National Park Service. Say yes to letting the students get in the driver's seat and having the courage to facilitate wherever they go. You're a pro at your sites, and you can always sort of bend it or work it back to some of your core themes and missions. And so keep an eye on us. You may be invited to come out to a performance of horse and theater and dance that's student-generated art in the future. Thank you.